Hello and welcome to Crypto Talks from the House of NBB. Today we're talking to two people who are trying to create a revolution in a very fast growing space. Co-founders of Strip Finance, Mr. Yash Jejani and Mr. Varun Satyam. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Hi, Sujay. Happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
No, my pleasure, my absolute pleasure.
Nice.
And I think first of all, big congratulations are in order for having closed the seed round recently. I mean,
Thank
obviously
you.
it's a
Thanks
start,
a
it's a
lot.
start, but it's a good start.
Yeah.
So I'll quickly get into the conversation. I'll take you right to the beginning of it all. What is the idea behind Strip Finance and how did that come about?
Sure. So, as Strip Finance, we essentially want to solve the liquidity challenge in NFT markets. So, right now, I'm sure everybody has heard about NFTs. So,
Yeah,
NFTs are being traded for hundred thousands, and people are even buying for millions of dollars.
yeah,
But the problem is, market is illiquid. So, consider any asset class. Once you buy it, you tend to hold it forever. I mean, that's the whole idea. Or if you want to flip it, you want to keep it for a while. But any asset class that you might have, be it gold or be it real estate or anything that comes from your traditional mindset. So anything can be collateralized in the real world, and we believe NFTs are the perfect asset class. The upcoming generation is going to be really crazy about it. Even we are today. So I think for any asset class, a secondary market or any collateralization market is a natural progression, and this is what we are trying to build. Why wait for someone else? Why not build it yourself? So that was the whole
exactly.
idea, and we are launching an NFT collateralization marketplace in the first place, and that's a platform that's going live soon. So post that, we'll be launching multiple other products in the NFT space itself. The idea is to ease liquidity for holders, and on the other end, the lenders will always have an option to earn some yield or interest on the lendings that you'd be doing on the platform, as well as there'll be other mechanics involved. So this is the whole idea. Talking about the name Strip Finance, it comes from a traditional instrument. So Strips is basically a traditional instrument to ease liquidity in the bonds market, wherein one can strip the interest from the principal of the bond and trade it into a secondary market. So we were doing it into different markets. We were doing it in DeFi, and now we are doing it in NFT. So that's where the name comes from. It might be a little unconventional for people, but yeah, it's a very typical name in the traditional industry.
Fair enough, fair enough. As long as it conveys the message.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did the two of you and Yuvraj obviously come together to build this particular platform?
Sure. So Varun and I, we've been collaborating on multiple things in the past few years. So we first met in 2017, where we were colleagues at a firm that was into blockchain, and that was our initiation into the blockchain space and crypto space. So our minds just blew off, coming to realize the potential of crypto blockchain. So post that, we launched a consultancy of our own, and then we have been running a media product by the name Bitlumix in the past 2 to 3 years. And Varun has been consultant to multiple companies. So I'll let Varun take this part for him. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm more like a product guy and like specifically into UI UX. And for that, I have been basically working on with multiple platforms. Like I worked with Anchor for more than a year, where so how we have AWS for blockchain,
Yeah,
how we have AWS in the traditional world. Similarly, Anchor is like an AWS for blockchain, and they are like the biggest in the industry. So there, basically, I got exposure to a lot of crypto layer ones like
okay,
Solana, Avalanche, or Polkadot, like how people are hearing it now. So I work with them to almost integrate more than 25 plus layer ones, or you can say layer one blockchains. And that's where I got a lot of exposure to all these, how these different blockchains perform. And I used to be basically their UX lead for these projects, for the protocol integrations and stuff. Similarly, I also worked with a project called as ColdStack, more like an open source contribution, just like a community contribution from just my interest. That is called as Chia Network, and Chia Network is basically the project started by the founder of BitTorrent when he sold BitTorrent to Tron Foundation, and then he started his own, you can say, currency called as Chia, which is like a substitute for the green Bitcoin sort of
okay,
thing. And I also basically help them giving some inputs for the UI UX for their desktop GUI. And then apart from that, I've been also working with one of the biggest or the oldest exchanges in the world called as Bitfinex. And you must have heard USDT or Tether. So Bitfinex and Tether has been working on some Lightning Network products, which will be announced later this year. So I've been helping them from almost 1.5 years now into building basically the UX UI for those products.
Okay. So
yeah,
having been in the space, both of you have been in the blockchain space, in the crypto space for a while now.
Yeah.
How do you think the evolution of this whole thing has happened over the last 3-4 years? Because it has been quick, but what kind of evolution have you seen from the inside?
From the inside, the kind of evolutions that we have seen is basically a lot of new systems are coming in place. Things are becoming efficient. So when we talk about you say that the space is going fast, but the space is going fast just in terms of the capital that is coming in, but not in terms of the real users that are growing. So, for example, now you see a lot of hype about NFTs. Everybody knows NFTs, but the total number of users of NFTs is only 300,000.
Yeah.
Which is fairly quite less, right? And to give you an example, like when we came into crypto space, the total number of Bitcoin holders all over the world were 10 million, and we have a population of 7 billion people. Right now, in the last 3 years, those numbers have changed, where we have crossed it more than 100 million plus of total number of Bitcoin holders, but still it is quite low in terms of whatever the total market potential is. And the thing we see that has been growing is more like, so a lot of good projects are coming in, and we are being able to make that shift where we can start seeing consumer products. So back when like the whole internet started, the war there was more like AOL, Yahoo, Google. So we are kind of in that kind of era where the biggest hyped products that you see till now are still layer ones, or layer ones I would say are called as infrastructure projects. So right now the war is going that which is the best blockchain. Is it Bitcoin blockchain, is it Ethereum, or is it Solana? We have still not been able to come to a stage where you can talk about products or revenue generating products which are consumer faced. So right now the only revenue generating product which is consumer faced is an exchange. So you have seen recently Coinbase doing the IPO.
Yeah.
But you might not know any other second name after Coinbase who might be of that level. All of the big names that you must be hearing are exchanges, but you might not know any product who has that level of use case where people are using them, not big wallets like Paytms. So these kind of consumer products are yet to arrive, and what we see is that the transition to that has become pretty fast in last 3 years, where in next by 2023 or 2025 we can see such kind of products arrive, where apart from the exchange you will have like real use case products that a normal consumer, without understanding what a blockchain is or without understanding that he has to do trading, can actually use the utility of a blockchain.
Okay, so coming back to the strip finance side of things, you said liquidity, like Yash said, liquidity was one of the challenges that you wanted to address. Apart from that, were there any other gaps that you identified as to, okay, these are the gaps we want to plug with this particular platform?
Sure. So liquidity is one part, and to put it in a broader terms, it is about capital efficiency. So the money which has been spent by, let's say, a borrower right here, somebody who has already bought the NFT and holds the NFT owner. So the capital is not being efficient. So it's locked somewhere, right? And they cannot do anything about it. Maybe wait for a couple of years for the capital gain or appreciation, although things move very fast here. It's a matter of weeks when you see a multifold returns on the NFT. But the thing is, like, it's not capital efficient to talk about it on a larger level. And NFTs are not just, have multiple use cases. So they're not just for display images on Twitter, or it's not just to hold on your wallet. So people use here for in-game assets. So all these in-game assets right now, which is called a GameFi, it's a separate industry altogether. So we have DeFi, we have NFT, and then we have GameFi, which is a combination of gaming plus DeFi of sorts. So wherein people do different activities and they get some tokens and other rewards as well. So Axie Infinity is one of the perfect examples that we have seen in the recent months. So it's being backed by all the major venture firms out of US, Europe, etc., been performing really well. NFTs have multiple use cases, and going back to the point, so the capital efficiency thing, right? And anything like we are planning to do will be revolving around capital efficiency and the gaps which we see. So in the gaming space, let's suppose somebody has an in-game asset or something which they have bred over past few months, and they are holding it, they're not being able to do any, get any value out of it. Or if they are playing a game, they're doing it only for 2 to 3 hours of the day, and they continue to hold it for the rest 18 hours or 19 hours without any return. So anything that we build, maybe like we also plan to build a gaming rental marketplace going forward. So that goes on the same concept, right? Easing liquidity or bringing capital efficiency. These people can use their in-game assets to lend it to somebody, or who wants to borrow it to use it for their game, get some more scores, or move ahead in the game at a faster pace, and then come back and return the assets to them. So the whole protocol moves around this idea.
Okay. So, how has the reaction been so far to the concept? I mean, obviously from the investor space and from the industry insider, especially. I mean, the two of you have been in touch with a lot of industry insiders, I'm sure, over the last few years about this idea as well. How has the reaction been? What kind of reactions have you seen coming in for this idea on the whole?
Yeah, so the reaction has been like really tremendous, because the kind of thing that we are trying to cater is hardly addressed by a lot of people in the industry. Yeah, so the product that we are building is one of its kind in the niche. So from India, like we are the first product to do this, to bring liquidity to these NFTs, and I would say even from Asia Pacific too. So it's not just from India, even from like the whole APAC region, we are the first ones to do it. And right now there is just one competitor product to us that lies solving the same problem. So this space is hardly unaddressed, and the natural progression of NFTs is going to come here. And a lot of these collection holders who are there, so with whom we have spoken to. So the best example I would give is that while building this platform, we approached one big NFT holder. His name is Aditya, and he was like the first buyer of NFTs when in 2018, 19, when people used to say NFTs like to be crazy thing, like anybody buying an NFT to be crazy thing. And he was the first buyer of Paris Hilton, Ashton Kutcher NFTs when they were dropped. So he's like a big collector, and he's also a fund manager. And we went to him basically to ask and understand that whatever we are trying to solve, will he be onboarding on our platform as one of the buyers or collectors, where we have a mechanism of underwriting the NFTs, and we actually approached him to join us an underwriter. And he was so overwhelmed by the project that he ended up being an investor.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is the kind of response, and like everybody with whom we have basically tried and spoken to has given like very good response. And we actually started with initially a very low raise, and there has been so many even traditional venture companies also showing interest that we are not in a space to accommodate them right now. So going forward, maybe down the line, when we also figure out more efficient models of our product, we might go for scaling with them.
Okay. So, but in all of this, like you said, you're the first in India and very early in the entire region. Do you think there's almost a slight fear of being too early?
No, not really, because we both have been more like OGs into crypto. So we entered in crypto space when even crypto space was considered to be a scammy region, where in 2016-17, if you say somebody that you're working in crypto, they would think that you're doing some scam. So for us, it's almost like the same thing. And we are kind of early adopters, where we like to get into products where like people are fearing to enter to, and that's our way to monopoly that. We become the first movers. We try to build this space. It might be inefficient in the beginning, but we try to crack that out. And then when everybody starts believing that no, this space is real or this thing is real, then we have basically a massive opportunity in order to scale things big.
Okay. So in all of this, then how big of a role does education on the whole around the concept? I mean, obviously starting with NFTs, because a lot of people in India still don't know exactly what the concept is, what the technology is, what exactly the whole thing is. Like you said early on, crypto was also like, okay, Bitcoin scam hai. So how big of a role then the customer education awareness and all do you foresee playing, because it is again, like you said, a very new concept?
So I'll take. So Sujay, I'd say NFTs are more than crypto. So these are about art and culture, to be very specific, right? The next generation is they are born into a digital world. They listen their rhymes on YouTube, and right now, like even if you go globally, all of these pop stars, all of these sports stars, they have been launching their own NFTs. Even in India, we saw Salman Khan launching his NFT coin last week, and was sold off in almost 24 hours. In the first hour or so, they had like 1 million coins sold. And then we have Amitabh Bachchan launching his own. We have Sunny Leone, and then other couple of more Bollywood stars we know of would be launching their own coins in the coming NFTs in the coming days. So this is more than about crypto. It is about art, it's about culture, it's about the metaverse, as they say. Facebook, again, like you must have heard, wants to change its name to align with the metaverse idea. So it will be the biggest shift Facebook has had in years. Like the last thing they did was in 2010 switched off everything to move to an app only strategy, which has worked perfectly well. So coming back to the point, sorry, I missed your question.
The education and the awareness side of things around strip finance as an idea and the space as the whole, how big a role does that play for your platform?
Perfect. So the education around NFTs will be taken care of by these pop stars, when people will be themselves attracted to it. So they will come to know about it. They'll discover more information. They'll go on multiple platforms. They will do some buying, selling, and that's how they'll come to know about it. I'm talking about the education. I think it more lies on the shoulders of these NFT platforms like OpenSea, WazirX, which are trying to get in more users. So I think they have already been engaging with artists. WazirX India has been doing a fantastic job with the platform. They have some Ritviz drops. They have some drops and these things. So the fans themselves get attracted to it and then try to understand, okay, what is it about? Or they tone it down. So Tanmay Bhatt, so influencers like Tanmay Bhatt, they have been doing a fantastic job as well, toning it down for the common people. What is it about? How it is to be done? So I think the education will come on its own, and we live in a digital first world. People won't take long to understand. Now it is on the onus of these platforms to create a better onboarding experience. So right now, it's a little bit fragmented in the sense that one has to sign up on a MetaMask wallet. So this is a little complicated task to do. And then there are other challenges involved. So as more and more centralized exchanges, so Binance, Coinbase, etc., they're launching their own NFT marketplaces. So that will create a better onboarding experience. They have the know-how and as well as the capability to create a better experience. So when these platforms take off, I'm sure smaller players will again take more interest, and as more institutions also come into place, we'll see more capital coming in, more education around it, more understanding, and as the larger media also absorbs idea around it. So in the US, we have seen New York Times doing NFT sales of their previous publications or some special editions that they had. And now they're very excited about it, so they just talk positive things because they made a couple of millions out of it. So when the global media gets a hang of it and when they start writing great things, I'm sure it will take off like the internet did back in 90s.
Okay. And what about the strip finance side of things? How are you going about spreading the education around the platform?
So our way is like, so the thing is, we are not catering to people who are non-cryptos. So the platform is adding value to people who are already introduced in the space, which are NFT holders. So anybody who is holding an NFT means like he has some basic understanding and he's able to basically buy or sell that.
Yeah.
That is one thing. Second thing is like the other part. So we are building this P2P marketplace initially, where we are bringing the buyers and NFT collectors and helping them match bids to provide liquidity. So even the NFT collectors are basically veterans whose sole business model or purpose lies on collecting NFTs and then selling them off. So for them, we are basically partnering with marketplaces, where all these assets are being minted, and our approach is like as we partner with the marketplaces, all the assets from that marketplaces can be brought for collateralization on our platform.
Okay.
So those marketplaces has basically spent typically 1-2 years or 3 years of time to educate a lot of people and bring audience on their platform, and we directly get access to all this audience in one go when we basically co-launch with them. And for them, it's basically not in competition, but an added feature, value-added feature to their existing customers, where it also helps their customers to basically stick to those marketplaces. So let's say when we do this with OpenSea or Rarible or WazirX NFT marketplace, then all these marketplaces have this extra. Their users have this extra option to also collateralize their assets with other marketplaces with whom we have not integrated, will not have the access to. Okay. So this also serves basically a win-win situation for both of us, the marketplaces and even for us.
Yeah, that sounds quite interesting and promising, hopefully. So coming to the overall space in general a little bit, how do you see this evolving? Like you said, people are getting into it slowly. How do you see it evolving in the perception of the common masses?
Yeah, Yashu would like to say that.
No, I think you can take it.
Okay, so in terms of the way the space is growing right now, it's just art-based NFT, so I would say it's driven through speculation.
Yeah.
But as the speculation settles down, you will see more utility of these NFTs coming into picture. So the first example is gaming NFTs. Now, when you say gaming NFTs, these NFTs come with attributes which are not just for sale as a speculation, but are actually usable inside an ecosystem. So it's like when you have an avatar, or else a power-up, or else a specific NFT or a weapon. It's like those weapon is of limited quantity and can be used inside that gaming ecosystem to give you some certain level of advantages over your competitors. So these kind of NFTs, when come into play, also brings utility inside the platform. And then apart from this, more new scopes are opening up, where now these music NFTs are also coming up, where the problem is like, let's say if you want to give royalties to the owner, typically this whole music rights thing was being handled by media houses and publication houses, and they used to run this whole centrally. But when you make it decentralized, where basically people come to power your content and you drop NFTs to them, so it's like that NFT is basically a specific primary address inside the blockchain, where like whenever any sales happen of that particular collection, all these primary addresses will get royalties on every purchase of the sale. And this whole mechanism has become trustless because it's all hard-coded by the code. Now, there is no trust required in between because you cannot bribe the code. The code will execute it whenever that sale happens, which you can typically overcome in a centralized mechanism where it's all driven manually. Now, apart from this progression, financial NFTs are also coming into picture. And like as our name arrives, right, Strip Finance. So typically we were about to start a process called a zero coupon bond in traditional market. So you must have heard a lot about DeFi also. and there are these platforms which give you yield and interest. So there is a lock-in period whenever you put any interest anywhere, when in traditional banks, and it's like at the end of first year or in 6 months, whatever your lock-in period is, you get whatever the promised interest is. So even for these platforms that are there in DeFi, we wanted to basically strip that interest out of
Okay.
the principal and make it instantly tradable. So you typically don't have to wait for 1 year or else the lock-in period to get your interest. Let's say you have a 10% interest you might get at the end of 1 year. You can trade it for 7% or 6% right now itself, immediately.
Okay.
And you get access to basically direct capital instantly. So this whole mechanism, when you do it through the code, is very hard to handle in terms of smart contracts, and it's very complex process. Now, when NFTs come into picture, this becomes very easy to do, because in the end, at the end of 1 year, when we as a platform are basically taking that interest or giving the interest, we basically just have to check that who the NFT holder is at that particular moment of time, which is easier to do than tracking that in the last 6 months who has traded and who is the last owner. But when NFT comes into picture, identifying the last owner becomes instantly fast.
Yeah.
So these kind of things and use cases have started to arrive and are going to arrive as more things come into picture. Even DAOs have started to come now. 2 years down the line, there are going to be a lot of DAOs, and there are going to be a lot of foundation tokens. There are going to be a lot of founder tokens. Even these tokens can be brought to collateralization in our platform and get access to immediate capital and things like that. And that's how we see that the common public is going to get a lot of exposure to NFTs in a growing period of time, apart from just art.
So when we speak about the common people,
Yeah.
a message to anybody out there, why do you think they should be looking at NFTs as a viable option, financially or otherwise?
Yeah, so viable option becomes when you see that what you want to get out of it. So there are two ways of looking at it. And when you see in terms of investment, as I said, right now the whole market is running just on the basis of investment, because that's the only thing available right now.
Yeah.
But going forward, these people will see not just as an investment, but viable option as to the kind of access they have inside a particular ecosystem. So let's say now these DAOs and all are coming, right? Or else even in gaming ecosystem. So whenever there is a rare collection or a rare NFT set that is there, which gives you a lot of abilities to do, there is a viable option. Why? Because it gives you access or permissions that you cannot get without holding that NFT. So I would say that the scope is going to advance more in terms of utility. So I'll just give you a very simple, basic examples. There's a friend of mine who is basically doing this whole NFT gaming thing on a blockchain called as Hedera Hashgraph. And 2 days back, he has done a sale of NFTs. They are going to be a collection of 5,000 NFTs, but the first 100 NFTs are going to have rare abilities.
Okay.
And so it's like when you go to invest in this first 100 collection, you become typically the OG of that whole ecosystem that they are building on that particular blockchain. And as I mentioned you about royalties, right? So the next 4,500 NFTs sale, whatever is going to happen, only these 100 people will be eligible to get royalties.
Okay.
So this is a kind of utility. Apart from this, whatever the rare NFT drop is going to happen, or whatever the new mechanism that is going to be implemented on that ecosystem, only these 100 people will have the access to vote, or else the power to vote.
Okay.
More like a board. So these kind of utility factors and these kind of concepts are starting to kick in right now.
Okay.
And these kind of advantages you can basically have when you start owning NFTs.
Okay. So coming back to Strip Finance, what is
Yeah.
the next big thing in the works? I mean, first things first, when are we expected to see the launch?
Yeah, so we are doing testnet launch in 2 days.
Okay.
And so testnet is basically, you can say, like the beta testing of the platform,
Yeah.
where we bring a lot of audience and basically see how efficiently the platform is performing, and if there are any lags or anything that we miss to address. And the users interaction helps us to understand that, okay, this is where the more interest is lying in, and we fix that, and we launch the main version with the fixed things,
Yeah.
and we'll do the main version in 45 days from now. Uh,
Okay.
so we'll do basically
Roughly
a test run. Yeah,
early December, if I'm not wrong.
early
That's what.
December. Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and apart from
I
that, the next thing that we are going to launch in December is something specifically for the Polygon or Matic chain. Is
okay.
We will be opening rentals of gaming NFTs.
Okay.
Apart from collateralization, we'll open all these gaming assets to be brought for rental. So typically, when you own an NFT or a gaming NFT, and you try to use them inside a game, you won't be using all the collection at once. So, for example, let's say if you have played Need for Speed, you might have 10 cars in your inventory, but you
Yeah.
won't use all the 10 cars when you're playing the game. You'll just use one car, and rest 9 of the cars are sitting idle. So
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, or NFT, you can basically bring to our platform for renting it out, and you
Okay.
can get access to new capital than just sitting idle.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this is something in the near launch that we are about to launch, and then there is also a long roadmap. But I think, yeah, this is the first thing that we would like to
These are the
announce.
first things that we are also excited
Yeah,
about. So
yeah,
I'll start towards wrapping up. I'll just ask both of you to chime in on this.
sure.
Anybody who is an NFT holder or in the space,
Yeah.
why Strip Finance?
Two things, because they don't have any such options available right now. That is the first thing. Second thing is that there is only one platform which is available, which is making them to have this option do, which is called as NFTFi. And the problem with them is that they whitelist the collection. So,
Okay.
and the number of collections that are whitelist are countable on fingers. So they are not more than 9 collections. So the thing is that if you're not one of those 9 collection holders, then basically you cannot use the platform. Which in our case is like anybody who is part of that marketplace. You can be any collection that inside that marketplace. You can bring your assets for collateralization. So
Yes.
these are like the first two advantages.
Sure. And for any NFT collector, I don't think there's a better place to go. We do not have NFT studios. So, there were some talks like, people be launching some NFT studios where they can display their art collections, but that doesn't bring money.
Yeah.
And why let your NFT sit idle? Why not, get some money out of it and use it for doing some other trades, mint more NFTs, make the most out of their NFTs. So we believe that we are helping them make the most out of their NFTs. And
Yeah,
this is
also adding to this is like for the liquidity providers, or basically the people who give stable coins for lending to these NFTs. This is a platform for a lot of people who want to acquire NFTs and assets at a discrete or discounted prices. So typically, when you go for a marketplace and you try to basically bid for that asset, you have to pay at the highest bidding amount.
Yeah.
Which, if you come to our platform and basically enable lending and borrowing for this asset, and you give, so there is an LTV value that is capped. So 10% to 55% of the last traded value is the range we provide, and you can give liquidity within that range only. So it's like
Okay.
um, you can acquire an asset for a range between 10 to 55% of the last traded price through our platform whenever a default happens, which you don't have such kind of option anywhere else.
Yeah.
to get assets at a discounted price. So yeah, for both the collectors and basically the owners, this is a kind of win-win situation.
Definitely. I honestly speaking, I look forward to the launch of the platform, and I look forward to all the great things that you have planned for the next few months and the road ahead. And I hope we can do this again sometime soon once
Sure,
things are
definitely.
up and about, and we'll
Yeah.
speak about how those things are going then. It was wonderful having both of you on the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you,
Same
CJ,
here.
for it. Lovely talking to you.